Hi, my name is Shane. I use they and them pronouns, and this is the sixth session of our Impossible Landscapes game, or the beginning of sort of Act 2 of the campaign. This series was organised as part of the Open Hearth gaming calendar. Open Hearth is an online community that plays and talks about a whole lot of role-playing games, especially Indian story games. You can find out more or get involved, come play a game with us at openhearthgaming.com. Last week, our characters closed the door on the night floors, so to speak, and we are going to pick up the story today, 20 years later. So, going to ask the players to introduce themselves and their characters, and yeah, tell us what they're like 20 years after we last saw them, what's changed for them, what their lives are like as we head into this new stage. Mark, can I get you to lead off this week?
Absolutely. Hello, my name is Mark. My pronouns are he, him, and they, them. I am playing Elena Anisimov, whose pronouns are she, her, who now at the age of 55 is teaching anthropology at Boston University, having spent a good 25 years now in the US after defecting from the Soviet Union, um, and also currently hyperfixated on the play The King in Yellow and sort of taking an anthropological eye to its significance culturally, um, and perhaps even trying to figure out its significance to some extra dimensional culture, whatever that may be.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you say that, what it makes me think of is that apart from the things that we've already talked about that you've uncovered about the king, you surely have been able to find all kinds of anthropological reports of cultures that have stories that mirror elements of the play The King in Yellow. So stories about strange unmaskings, about powerful figures in yellow, about all kinds of elements of those stories reproduced in different cultures throughout history. Um, all right, Blake.
G'day, I'm Blake He Him. I'm playing Felix Straussman, also he him, a 50-year-old teacher at MIT. He got a bit obsessed and went to prison for a while and then kind of reconstructed his life over the last 20 years. And then he met another teacher called Claire and got married. And he's still pursuing the sort of Carcosa King in Yellow, what is going on here thing, but he's just a bit more rational and calm about it while trying to have a normal life as well.
Nice, thank you. Puckett.
Hey there, I am Puckett. I use he, him pronouns. I will be playing Sarah Bradford, who uses she, her pronouns. And Sarah's been through it. She really doesn't want anything to do with Delta Green anymore. She has tried to figure out what the hell happened with her family. She always thought her mom had been the awful one, and subsequently found out that her mom was trying to protect her from the shady things that her father was up to, such as moving them all to one of Asa Darabandi's thought houses and, trying to see if it altered her in any way as she was born and grew up there. So, yeah, there's a lot of resentment there, and she's tried to find out what the hell has been going on. She's been trying to figure it out. And really, the only stable and good thing that's been happening is her relationship with Yelena. They've been living together. They both are obsessed with this. They both have access to different sources, and they've been trying to puzzle through the timeline of all this nonsense as we head into whatever fresh bullshit is about to occur.
Nice. And Brandon.
Hi, I'm Brandon. I'm playing Tara Reinhardt. She, who is a 48-year-old still a firefighter after many years, although she's a captain. She still puts in, shifts. It was kind of an occasional thing for while she had young children, because she got married and has had two daughters, one of which is pretty much just newly out of the house, and the other of which is 12. The other just, probably, I think, graduated from high school this past June, and is off to college, and so there's still a lot of back and forth going on, but we want to give Melly a little bit of space. And she with the exception of her brother, she pretty much cut ties with her old life. She actually went and, worked for a different, she's still a firefighter paramedic, but she picked up and then went to work for a different unit, and such like that, because she couldn't really stand to talk to anyone in her life about it, and so was happy to start a new existence.
And has Tara stayed involved with Delta Green, or to what extent has she?
No, Tara has Tara stopped answering Delta Green's calls back a while ago, but it's been many years, and at this point, getting contacted by Delta Green would be shocking, because she has assumed that was all in her past life.
All right. And it sounds like you probably haven't had contact with the other agents for a while. Is that right?
I think I have a cup of coffee with Felix every so often. With anybody else, if they want to.
Okay, that's cool. So you all stayed in touch a bit.
Yeah. Just to say how you're doing, and it's she talked to Sarah and Yelena more often, but all they want to talk about is the King in Yellow.
Yes, I can see
you would have been invited to Felix's wedding like 3 years ago. So.
Oh yeah, I absolutely would have come. And it's not that she's not phobic about what happened before. It's just, it was, for her, it was extremely unpleasant. And the idea of getting involved back in there doesn't fill her with joy. She'll be civil, but it's not a subject of fascination.
Sure. Okay, so just before we get started, a couple of things. One is to remember we are using a set of safety tools, so if you want to remind yourself of our lines and veils, you can do that. The other thing is, mechanically, just make sure that you've reset your current hit points and willpower to your maximum. So you've had 20 years to recover, so your HP and willpower are back to where they should be. Your resilience will not recover. That's more like a sort of long-term track of how close you are to your ultimate destruction. So it does not heal. Time does not heal that. Okay, so we're starting this next part of the game in August 2015. The sort of recap, I guess, is that 20 years ago, the four of you were an active duty Delta Green cell. You were assigned to investigate after the disappearance of a New York poet named Abigail Wright. You never found her, but you did find that the building where she'd lived had been warped by unnatural forces connected to a play called The King in Yellow. And ultimately, you convinced Delta Green to remove the tenants and demolish the buildings. I think you briefly had yourselves placed under psychiatric observation to make sure that you weren't infected by the unnatural vector, and then have gone on with your lives in different ways. Most of you, at least, I think, said that you have done some work for Delta Green since then. I guess I'd emphasize that nothing else that you've done for them has been like what happened in Operation Alice. So you've seen, aliens and magic and monsters and things like that, maybe. Definitely impossible things, but nothing that seemed to just completely defy logic and causality in the way that the Night Floors did. So, yeah, in all that time, some of you have obsessed over it, some of you have tried to forget it, but nothing has really recreated or brought back directly those feelings or experiences until recently. A few months ago, let's say around, we said August, so let's say around May, each of you separately, in whatever you were doing, saw or experienced something that reminded you of the Night Floors in some way. Not necessarily something directly supernatural, probably nothing dangerous, but just something that brought back the uncanny feelings you remembered from the McAllister in a really direct, visceral way. So I'm going to ask you all to start off by telling us what it was. What did you notice or see or do in May that brought back those feelings? Yelena, can I get you to go first?
So I think, yes, so I think maybe one night when Yelena was staying at the university, probably like grading papers or something like that. She kind of like walked out, went down a hallway to the washroom, and like walked into the washroom door directly back into her office. And I think this happened a few times that she like went back and forth, and it just kind of kept recurring until suddenly it stopped. And I think that experience was certainly what brought back memories of what happened at the McAllister. And I think part of her probably once it stopped, I think part of her, like the obsessive part of her, tried to open many doors to see if like it would happen again, while at the same time sort of having that really disturbed kind of sense of like trying to remain practical like she did back in the McAllister, while at the same time undergoing some pretty like severe emotional stress while it was happening.
Yeah, thank you. Felix, what about you?
I think when he's just been sort of like window shopping, and like whenever he's on his own, he'll look at his reflection in the window, and the face is the guy that they saw briefly chained to the bench, and then they freed him, and then he got pulled back in. And it's just, he hadn't thought about him in 15 or so years, and then suddenly he keeps seeing this guy's reflection in May.
Awesome, thank you. Sarah, what about you?
I was walking down the street early one morning. Dawn was just starting to break when I stumbled across a film crew, which for some reason was holding up painted backgrounds for the actors, which is just absurd, because why in the city would you need to do that? The city is the backdrop. And yet there they were. And sure enough, as dawn broke, they just tore everything down and started to get into trucks and drive off. And within a matter of a few minutes, they were mostly gone.
How did that make Sarah feel?
I went immediately back to my apartment with Yelena, and I poured myself a very stiff drink. And by very stiff drink, drink is perhaps misleading. Drink implies mixing something together. This was basically 4 fingers of whiskey.
Nice. Thank you. And Tara, what about you?
It was a little thing followed by a big thing. The little thing was walking by and seeing in the window of an art gallery a blank canvas framed with a title and a price, which is just like, and I just thought, oh, that's strange. I didn't think anything of it until I got into my car and fell 20 feet. And when I opened my eyes, I was sitting in my car.
Did you tell anyone? Did you do anything?
I sat there and gasped for a while, like a fish. Who am I going to tell?
Yeah, that's right.
No, I haven't told anyone.
All right.
They think and the last thing I need is to get taken off the job right now, and I may get a mandatory physical because because of a fainting spell or Meniere's disease or something, but I know what happened. And I can't tell anybody what actually happened.
Sure. All right, thank you all. So what kicks off the next part of this game is that you each receive a delivery by FedEx. You can see it in the 2015 handouts folder in the Google Drive. It's an invitation to a birthday party for a person you don't know. It has a distinctive green triangle at the top. And even though most of you haven't worked for Delta Green in some time, it is unmistakably a summons to a Delta Green operation. You each received this on the 28th of August 2015. The birthday party that you're invited to is on September 1st. I will leave it to each of you to decide if it is coincidence or the malign influence of the king that is actually today's date as we play for most of you. Let's see. Let's start with Tara. Can you just tell us like a short vignette that shows us what you're doing when you get that invitation?
I want to see the invitation. So let me just pull that up. And that's in the handouts.
So there's two. I've moved all the old handouts into one folder, and now there's a new folder called Handouts 2015
Right.
that has the invitation in it.
I hold this and I stare at it for a little while. And then I get out my phone and I dial that number that's the bottom.
All right, let's see what happens when you dial that number. So the number goes, what time of day is it when you get the invitation?
Oh, it's probably in the afternoon.
So the invitation will just go to a message bank for a Gateway Bridges restaurant. If you're still in Boston, you might even recognize the name of the restaurant. It's a, moderately popular Italian place.
There's not a time on this invitation.
So that is the time that you're invited for is 8 p.m. on the 1st of September. I don't know why that's not in the handout because it is in the adventure text.
It's not the date isn't there either. Not come to think of it. And that's tonight, isn't it?
No, so you get this on the 28th, so you've got a couple of days.
So if that's the number, if that's for the hotel, then they're not going to. That's not going to be helpful. I curse. I close my eyes and I say, and I basically say to myself out loud, quietly, okay, not doing this, not doing this. And I'm going to have to show up to tell them that I'm not doing this, since obviously since I don't have any other way to contact them right
now. All right.
So I just make a note and tell Christian, my husband, that I'm going to be home late on that date.
Right. Cool. Thank you. Yelena, where are you when you get the package and how do you react?
Well, if it's a weekday and it's in like the afternoon, Probably in my office at the university. I think I'm probably looking through my like notebook. So I imagine like I've got like, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade style journal that I'm keeping all of my like King Yellow notes and stuff in. And I'm likely going through that, ignoring the like, first year student papers because they're just awful to read and try to grade. When I think the invite probably just like slides under my door.
And how do you react when you see it?
Since I'm still in contact with Delta Green, I'm probably like, I probably don't. I imagine this is actually the first time I've been asked to meet in person. Everything else has just been correspondence because it's just consulting work mostly. So I think there's a part of me that gets really excited that it must be, because my thoughts are dominated by this thing. It must be related to this. Whereas another part of me, I'm sure, is very reluctant and hesitant, but the obsession always takes over.
All right, thank you. Felix, what about you?
I think he's wearing one of his purple suits and he's going for a walk in the park, and he sort of grabs a mail to read as he's walking along, and it's supposed to be a 10-minute walk, but he's kind of happy, and then he's sort of happy tears, and then he's confused, and his mind's just racing when he's thinking, oh, do I want to do this? What happened last time? Do I want to put myself through this? What about Claire? And then the 10-minute walk turns into an hour because he doesn't want to come home a mess. He wants to try and process it properly, and he has a nice long walk through the park while he's thinking about it all.
Cool, thank you. And Sarah, what about you?
I think I'm at home in my studio. The light's nice at this time of day. And it looks like a blank canvas until you look at the edges. And the edges contain what's behind it. But distended. Like as if you're peering around the corner and everything gets longer as you look at it. And I hear the noise at the door. I go look, and there's this envelope on the floor. My hand starts shaking, and I open it and immediately drop it on the floor. Step back from it, bump into the coffee table, and curse because I know that's going to leave a bruise. And I'm going to go, well, again, drink implies that there's a mix. This is another nice tall glass of straight whiskey. Because there is no way in hell I'm going to do this.
All right. So, I mean, it seems to me that it makes sense that we frame a scene where Sarah and Yelena talk about this because they're the two that obviously have the closest connection. So, Yelena, when you get home, or do you come home early to talk about it? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, I think I cancel my final class of the day to come back early. I walk through the door, and I think, I don't know, what would if it's like kind of mid-afternoon, what would Sarah be doing when I walk through the door?
Normally, you'd expect me to be painting.
Right.
We've got these nice westward facing windows. The afternoon sun streams through, so this is one of the reasons why we picked this place. Magic hour here is even more magical somehow. But I'm not in the room that we've set aside as the office studio, or at least perhaps the non-conspiracy, non-yellow floors, King in Yellow office. This is more of a studio where I've got my paints and you have a desk and you work at home, like grading papers and that sort of thing. So normally you'd expect to find me in there. And instead, I don't think I've been in the other office for quite some time. And you find me in there chain smoking, which is different because I quit smoking, well, probably about 10, 15 years ago. And I'm drinking. And by this point, you can actually see shards of a broken glass on the floor, and I'm just drinking straight from the neck.
Okay, so I think as I walk past the studio office, I look at your painting and just think to myself that the composition is coming along nicely and very evocative of that experience of sort of endless hallways. And when I come into the room, I think before I even say anything to you, I like start picking up the shards of glass off of the floor and just comment. I take it you got the invitation too.
You can see blood on a couple of the shards, and you realize that I'm barefoot, and I may have been pacing through them without noticing.
Okay.
I'm not doing this. I'm not going back to this. No. There's not a shot in hell. There's absolutely no fucking way.
Sort of nod and be like, I can go for the both of us. And I think in a moment of in a moment of tenderness, because as much as our relationship is fueled by obsession with similar things, I think there's still some genuine care there. I'll
absolutely
get the first aid kit, start cleaning the wounds on your feet.
This is when I noticed them for the first time. And I chuckle and say,
sorry, go ahead.
Well, at least it's liquor. It should more or less disinfect itself, right?
I feel like we shouldn't waste the good whiskey on this. So I'm actually using rubbing alcohol or disinfecting alcohol. And and be like, you don't have to go. You don't need to go. If there's anything you want to tell them, I'll tell them.
Can you tell them to fuck off forever, and once they think they've gotten to forever, to keep fucking off beyond that and just fuck off into infinity, like one of those hallways?
Right. I'll smile a little bit and be like, and when they make their way back around, to fuck off some more.
Yes, exactly.
Like, I'll tell them.
You shouldn't have to do it alone.
Like, I think the others will probably be there. Actually, I think instead of assuming that, I'll say, I'm going to call Felix, and I'm going to call Tara and see if they got the invites too.
If you and I got them,
I think regardless, maybe if we talk first, the three of us can project a united front with whatever DG decides to throw at us.
I'll reach over and I'll kind of ruffle your hair. So, You're the best thing that came out of that whole mess.
Like, you're right, I am. I'll sort of smile.
So maybe we'll frame a scene where at least 3 of you, maybe 4 if Sarah decides to go as well, have met up to like talk about how to respond to the invitation rather than play it out as like individual phone calls. Does that sound okay?
Maybe we should meet like an hour before we're supposed to go to the dinner and we can have a chat.
Yeah.
Do you meet, like you said, if you're going to meet an hour before, is it going to be at the Gateway Bridges restaurant or is it just going to be
No, it might be
somewhere
like down the
nearby?
street at a cafe or something, just,
Yeah.
a block or 2 away.
That
All right. Sounds good. Sarah, are you going to join them or no? You've had a couple of days to think about it by this point.
I might just wind up sitting in a cafe across the street with like really, really big, like Jackie O sunglasses on,
Okay.
watching the door.
Sorry, of the cafe where the others are meeting or of the restaurant where they're going to go meet?
The cafe where the others are meeting. I'm just going. I don't want Yelena to be too far away without some kind of support.
Okay. All right. So the 3 of you assemble at this little cafe. It's about an hour before you're supposed to attend Richard Zaloni's birthday.
I think, Felix will say, look, it's good to see you. He'll go for a hug if people are up for a hug. And then sort of, shall we sit?
I think at this point, Yelena is comfortable with hugs again.
sure.
Yeah, I don't have any insights about what this is about, but I'm going to guess it's to do with the last thing we were all sort of involved in. Because why all of us at the same time otherwise, I'm kind of curious, but I kind of tried hard to forget as well. Don't know. Is that how you guys, you ladies feel or not? Or
Anything happened to you this week?
do you remember that guy we found strapped to the bench and we sort of freed him and then he just sort of disappeared right in front of us? Every now and then I'll see when I'm looking at my reflection, I'll see his face instead of mine. It's only been the last couple of weeks. Hadn't thought about it for 15 years. Tried hard to forget most of it, to be honest.
Look at Yelena.
Yeah, I'll just say yes, something happened.
So what does that mean? It's back? Except it's
It being the book or the night floors or
the
influence of the night floors on an area near
neither.
us or
It
something?
wasn't the book and it wasn't the night floors, right? That's what we figured out. Okay, the book is a means to an end.
So
It was that place. And the night floors was just part of it. That's what he said.
I think at Tara's sort of like description of like the book and how like unimportant it seemed to sound to her, I think I would like sort of be like, the book is not nothing.
Oh no, I don't think the book's not. I'm not saying the book's not nothing. What I'm saying is the book is a way to bring that shit here.
Like, regardless.
And it's if it's coming here, because we're not on the night floors. And what happened to me this week was not on the night floors. And it wasn't a nightmare either.
Yeah. Remember what Person told Sarah? We are already there. We are there simultaneously with all other things.
Yeah, except that in the last 20 years, it hasn't been here, there.
Maybe. Either way, DG wouldn't ask us for an in-person meeting if they weren't going to if they weren't going to tell us to go back into the field.
Maybe. I'm going to text Sarah and say, here with, Tara and Yelena, wish you were here.
I feel like Sarah would be here if she wanted to be here.
Sarah, do you respond to the text?
Considering I'm sitting in a dark corner of the cafe and I don't want to draw attention to myself as I'm observing this, no, not yet.
I'll say, Tara, if we don't, what if other people who are less prepared get drawn in? It's like, you run into fires because you can deal with it. Maybe we're the firefighters in this example. Maybe we're the ones who should
I didn't
go
say
in.
what I was going to do or not do. Have you decided?
Well, no, I've got mixed feelings. For good reason. We all, know what happened.
I don't have mixed feelings. I don't know where this mixed feelings comes from. My feelings are about as mixed as oil and water. I'm furious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about?
I'm
what
furious
happened
that
to you
this
week?
20-year-old bullshit that I was trying to put behind me isn't gone.
Do you want to tell us what happened this week to you? Or...
Yeah. A bunch of little stuff, okay? Nothing to write home about. Seeing the name Carcosa in a shop window and then it turning out to be a different name. Little stuff. Okay. But then getting into my car and falling 20 feet.
Did it feel like the car was falling or just you?
No, just me. It felt like I fell 20 feet. I fell down a fucking...
Like
You know
that
what
lift?
it felt like? It felt like I fell down a fucking elevator shaft.
Yeah, I remember.
I fell, and then I was fine. I was in the car. And there's nothing wrong with me.
I think
If that Carcosa place is trying to come back here, and it's found a different place to leak out since the McAllister building was taken down, we're fucked. I mean, not just us.
So what do you all want to tell Delta Green? I figured it might be worthwhile to
I don't know.
united.
I'd like to at least hear what they have to say.
That's what they're going to say. Because if they say anything else, I'm just going to tell them that they can go fuck off to Carcosa.
Might be possible.
That was about what.
Yeah.
That was about what Sarah also.
I bet she didn't say Carcosa.
She did not. She wanted them to fuck off far beyond Carcosa.
Fuck beyond Carcosa. I don't know what to think about that. But that's what they're going to say. They're going to say that whatever it is that place King in Yellow talks about, and remember, we all got a read of it, or at least part of it, that place is leaking through. that somebody's been doing it, or some derivation of it, or something close to it. So yeah, I think it's important, Elena. I think perhaps maybe it's the most important thing there is. That's what they're going to tell us. And I hate that because I don't have an answer to it.
I mean, just thinking out of the box, maybe the play is us infecting them, and we have to stop infecting them.
No, because then shit would have been happening over the last 20 years.
I don't mean us. I mean our reality infecting them. But I mean us four.
Does that matter? Who cares? You know, iceberg slams into the Titanic. Titanic slams into an iceberg. Much the same result.
Yeah, fair.
That's what they're going to tell us. Because if they don't tell us that, then I can freely tell them I'm not getting involved in this anymore. But that's what they're going to tell us. And then I have no idea what I'm going to say, what I want to say.
Yeah. You're probably right, but I'd still like to hear what they say anyway. And
because that's about the only thing that they could say that would get me to say this is somebody else's problem. I have a husband and I have 2 children.
Yeah.
But again, if something is going to come in and bring that awful place here, then what can we do? Except try to stop it. It's not like we can just say no. I mean, I guess we could pretend it doesn't exist for a while. But I can't. I mean, I couldn't even tell my husband, right, about what happened in the car.
No, I haven't told my wife anything.
No, I mean, what was I? I mean, I
work.
could tell him I had a bad dream or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. But I can't tell him, oh, by the way, yeah, 20 years ago, I fell down an elevator shaft and should have died. But I didn't, because it was in a weird magical place that doesn't really exist here, and it happened again. I can't even say that. You can't say that. There's not even a way to start to say that. And there's no good way it ends if you do try to say it.
No, I haven't told my wife anything either. It's, as you say, where would you start? But
they would say, oh, you've been under a lot of stress or whatever. You can't. There's no meaningful discussion to have at all. What do you want to do, Yelena?
Yeah, Yelena maybe needs a moment. Mark does.
Oh. Sorry,
Well,
I missed that.
That is right. I am minded just to wrap this scene here. So
yeah,
and then we'll take our 10-minute break and we'll come back and pick it up just at the briefing, if that works for everyone.
Fair.
All right. I might just check in with Sarah first. Is there anything that you do or wanted to do while this is going on?
As they get up and walk out of the cafe, I'll text Felix, and with some sort of, kind of bland note. Like, Felix, what was it that you texted again?
I'm here with Elena and Tara. Wish you were here. It's kind of passive aggressive, but.
I'll text back some emojis, like a smiley face and the hug emoji, and the last one is the middle finger emoji.
But at least she didn't.
That's on point for Sarah.
Yeah. Felix, at least she didn't text back and say, wish here was you.
All right. So we're going to take a 10-minute break here and we'll come back for the briefing. Brandon, are you back?
Yes.
Oh, great. So 3 of you walk into the Gateway Bridges restaurant right around 8 p.m. You we'll see a little, little stand or a sign that says Richard Zaloni's birthday this way, or the waiter will usher you in. It's kind of to a private party room in the back. So there's a big open restaurant area, and then these private rooms for private gatherings and bookings. As you head in, you see a black man in his 60s. There's olives, bruschetta, things like that spread across the table. He gestures for you all to sit down. He says, we'll get started as soon as the fourth arrives.
All right, sit around, sort of anxiously looking around.
Please help yourself to the entrees. If you want to order a meal, you'll have to do that yourself. As he talks and moves, you notice a couple of things. One is that he smells quite bad. He smells, like there's a body odor smell mixed with like petrol or oil, like maybe he's been doing heavy work on a car or something like that. But also there's a subtle noise of crumbling paper as he moves. Yelena, I'm not sure if you caught it or if you would respond to this, but he said that he'll get started as soon as the fourth of you arrives.
Okay. I will say our fourth member has declined the invitation.
Well, that's very unusual, but all right. I understand that the program chose the four of you for an important reason, but I don't suppose there's anything to do but to proceed. You can call me Agent Exeter. This operation will be called Operation India Moon. Your objective is to locate former operatives of our program who are currently missing. Their names are Fiona Pesco, Wayne Malta, Eric Filton, and Bert Mogan. These agents have all been under care at a psychiatric facility here in Boston that has connections with our program, specializes in the sorts of treatment that our agents sometimes require. The four of them all went missing at approximately the same time on the 28th of August. For security reasons that I assume will be obvious, we have not contacted the police. A message was written in blood on the wall of one of their rooms, and he will take out a photo and show it to you. If you bear with me for one sec, I'll add it to the 2015 handouts folder. And he'll say, oops, that's the wrong one. Cancel upload, sorry. He'll say, I understand that you're familiar with the name in the photo. All right, so it's in the folder now. It shows a message written in blood on a wall, and the message reads, Abigail Wright has gone to sea, crossed the waves to rescue me. In a ship both tall and fine, she rounds the corner, marking time. He sort of pauses to see how you react to that, and I think sort of encompassing both this message itself and the sort of, reawakening of these old feelings.
Oops.
Yeah, looks like Shane's disconnected. We'll just give him a couple of seconds. Okay.
We kind of want to roll humans on this guy and just see what's going on.
I was just worried he was the maitre d' guy in the night floors, but no, I think he's someone different.
He seems bad.
Sorry, I have no idea how I ejected myself from the the video chat. Sorry about that. Where was I when I vanished?
You were reading the rhyme.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, it really was. It must have been an ominous departure. Sorry about that. So the rhyme in its entirety is Abigail Wright has gone to sea, across the waves to rescue me. In a ship both tall and fine, she rounds the corner marking time. The three of you who see this will all need to make a resilience test. And on a success, you're not losing any resilience. On a failure, you're losing 1 point of resilience, just at the obvious connection to your old experiences. And Agent Exeter will sort of watch to see how you respond to that. And then, unless anyone interrupts him, we'll continue the briefing.
I would like to, maybe this is pointless, but I would like to roll human to see if I can get a sense of like whatever he might be concealing from us.
Yeah, go ahead. Anyone who wants to make a human roll is welcome to do that.
23 under 55. All right.
All right. So, I mean, this is the part that probably goes without saying, but this is a person who is profoundly damaged. Like, something is really wrong with this guy. Whatever he's experienced has done something terrible to his mind. But he is telling you the truth. The work might have driven him mad, but he's still being honest with you.
Kind of makes me wonder why DG would even send him in this case.
Anyway, in any case, he continues. He says, before they moved into psychiatric care, each of these agents came into contact with a certain book known to have unnatural properties. The recovery of any occult book in this operation is to be reported to the program. You may examine any such book for title and author, but you are not to read any occult text that you come across during the operation. At this point, he will take out this sort of large, old-looking satellite phone from his briefcase and slide it across the table towards you. He says, the program can be contacted securely by pressing *616 on this phone, but communications should be kept to a minimum. He also hands you a card, business card for Dr. Richard Dallin of the Dorchester House Psychiatric Facility, with his, email, telephone, and fax number, as well as the address of the facility. He says that Dr. Dallin is familiar with our program. He's friendly. He is expecting your call and will cooperate fully.
And if we decline?
I'm not sure I understand.
If we say, no, we're not doing this, find someone else, then what?
Well, that wouldn't be my decision, but I assume that Delta Green will find alternative agents and allow the three of you to continue with your lives. Make a human check at that.
All right. Ooh, that's a failure.
Does anyone else want to try a human roll?
Yeah, I failed. I'm expecting him to bullshit, but I couldn't detect if he was or not.
No, I'm failed too.
All right. So yeah, you might suspect that he's not telling the truth, but none of you can really get a handle on him. Are you declining?
I think I'll look to everybody else and say some time to consider.
Let me be clear. These are 4 operatives of our program. All of them have military or other weapons training. All of them are considered extremely dangerous. Their locations are currently unknown to us. They are unwell. They require treatment. Even notwithstanding the havoc they could cause, if they come off their psychiatric medication without suitable tapering, it will cause serious harm to them as individuals, harm we would like to avoid. There is no time to delay. If you're not going to take this assignment, tell me now, and we will make other arrangements.
Okay, so Shane, I'm not sure if you've seen, but Puckett and I kind of retroactively decided that Elena would have her phone on
Okay.
to so
some
that
sort
Sarah
of audio surveillance. Yeah.
and
So
Sarah rolled 35.
Right. I see that now. So Sarah, even over the phone, it's clear to you that what Agent Exeter means is that if you decline the mission, you'll be eliminated.
I think that's about the time that I'm going to sigh, get up from my table at the cafe, walk across the street, and walk into the room.
I'll be saying, look, I want to help, but I don't want to do it alone because he's still a curious little boy inside.
Well, here is Agent Rembrandt to assist you. Thanks for joining us.
So I'm just going to ask. So I'm going to say. So I think as Sarah is coming up to the table, be like, so you expect an academic, 2 academics, a firefighter, and an artist to extract 4 unstable, militarily trained mercenaries?
You're not required to extract them. You're required to find them, locate them, report back. Appropriate support will be provided at that point.
Define appropriate support, please. Because I haven't slept well for the last 20 years because of the shit that I went through. The only reason I'm here is because they may not have figured it out, but I could hear it over the phone. If we don't do this job, you're just going to kill us.
I would not kill you, but
Yeah,
I have
you
grave
personally
suspicions.
might not.
You know the kind of work that we've all agreed at some
20
time
20 years.
to
20
do.
years.
Did you think you could retire?
Listen,
You know, he points to the photo and he says, you know this name. You are already connected to whatever is happening here. I don't intend to debate this with you. I would understand if your decision was to run. But tell me, can I rely on the 4 of you, or should I find other agents?
you can count on me on one condition.
I am not authorized to negotiate on behalf of the program.
Yeah, I know. But you can fuck off straight to hell.
He smiles broadly at that.
And tell Marcia the same thing. If she's still alive.
He definitely won't know who Marsha is. Marsha hasn't been active for a good while.
How does she get to retire and we don't?
Wait,
She retired the hard way.
Upper management. Perks of upper management.
Bastards.
I hope she got a gold-plated Casio for her retirement.
And I think at that, he'll get up and start to walk away. Again, you can hear the sound of paper sort of crunching as he moves. And he'll leave you to discuss anything that you want to discuss.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Sarah. I mean, what if this is our chance to finally save Abigail?
Tara will start very quietly to cry.
If I see
far as we know-
Abigail, I'm kind of inclined to just shoot her. I don't want to
As
be
far
here.
as
I
we
wanna
know,
be doing
Abigail wanted to be there.
this. And
Maybe we could tell her to let us go, if that makes sense.
everything we've seen is that people want to go to wherever this is, whatever their damage is. I mean, you remember all the people living in that building. They wanted to go there. It was the only thing they dreamed about. They were like junkies, remember?
Felix, you notice at this point something else that strikes you as odd.
Okay.
20 years ago in Abigail's apartment, you found a couple of mechanical diagrams that were drawn on a set of napkins or serviettes.
Yep.
You realize that the napkins are from this restaurant. Make a resilience check as you realize that.
Goody. I think I'm going to hand the napkin to Tara because she's crying, and I think, oh, shit. Yes, I rolled under by 10.
All right, so you hold it together. It's a disturbing realization, but you're okay.
I'll sort of wave it at Yelena and same napkins from Abigail's room.
Oh, God damn it.
No, I usually don't put much stock to those conspiracy nuts that are about, but this is looking a lot like something like that.
Just as an idea, why don't we pick up a bottle of something really, really nice and go back to our place where Yelena and I can show you the murder boards that we've been working on. Maybe something in them will be useful, maybe it won't, but it's 20 years worth of research. And we might as well try to do something productive with it instead of just letting it sit there.
I definitely don't want to go into this unprepared like we were last time.
You know, Yelena, I'm glad we used different colors of yarn to link different threads, no pun intended, of the conspiracy together. I don't know that it'll make it any easier for them to trace things, but at least they can see where the various strands of it go.
Yeah.
I think I'll look at them too and look at Tara. I'll say, I know you didn't want to get into this again, Tara, but we could use your help.
I don't seem to have a choice.
Well,
They've been the statter.
Yeah.
leave my husband, widower, and my daughters an orphan.
Yeah. I would like to get back to my wife too. So
It's
that's
not a matter of getting.
I just, it's not that I mind seeing you all again. I just wish it was under better circumstances. But you might want to remember that the last time we went in that place, a week passed, and we thought it was just one night.
You think that makes it better, Sarah?
I'm just saying that you might want to tell. I don't even know what lie to tell people.
Write a note to my husband and my 12-year-old daughter. Mommy may be back in an hour or a week. I have no idea. Because that's going to go over.
I'm just saying that you might want to leave something just for them, just in case. Because if we're lucky, maybe it's only a week.
Up and disappeared from their lives.
And we can't tell them anything. That'd put them in danger. I mean,
I'm gonna have to lie and invent a conference as it is.
You know, it might be better, and I hate to say this, I really do. Tara, I know you love your kids. I know you love your husband. Felix, I know you love your wife and your kids. Did either of you tell your partners where you were going tonight?
I just said I was going to be home late.
And Felix,
just meeting some old friends.
I have to.
But
I have sometimes when I have to cross cover people off the big thing as long as it's not.
I guess this sounds horrible, and I hate to even suggest this, but it might be better if you two didn't go home. If we crashed your cars or burned them in some lot.
No, Sarah, no.
No. I'll just say I'm going off to a conference. I should be a week or less, and if it's less, all the better. I'm home early.
And what if it's more?
Then it'll be easier to deal with because they were at least expecting me away for a week. So that's better than nothing. That's all we can do without breaching rules.
I'm sorry for both of you. I really am. I can't even imagine how hard this must be for you.
Yeah.
And there's a big part of me that thinks that taking a bullet in the back of the head would be better than doing whatever it is they want us to do.
I was in prison for a while.
I didn't think of that either.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Deep down, I think maybe we can still help Abigail in some way. Maybe I'm stupid that way, but
I want a gun because if I see her,
well, that may still be helping her in a way.
In that case, I don't want a gun. Let her suffer.
I think at this point, Yelena probably have actually purchased a gun at this point, and it's in. Did we decide it was an apartment or?
We have a nice flat, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So second, third floor, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
A building where we'll get nice afternoon light.
Yeah.
I'm going to go home. Get in touch when we're going to go meet this doctor.
All right.
I'd like to see my family again today. And
Try to put on a brave face.
figure out what I'm going to tell them.
Just try not to look as upset as you do right now.
I'll be fine in that regard.
So the only sort of direct lead that you have is to contact this Dr. Dallin and go and talk to him. Is that what the group plans to do? Or are there other ways that you want to start or try investigating before you do that?
Well, we got the names of the agents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I want Delta Green to provide us with, at the very least, a brief on what they were working on, even if they can't tell us about occult books or things like that. So I'd like some documentation from Delta Green because, well, we can talk to this doctor. That may be useful, but knowing what they were working on before they went into the psych hospital, I think would be very useful.
Mhm.
So does that mean that you take the satellite phone that Agent Exeter gave the group?
You know, considering that Agent Exeter probably hasn't had much time to leave the restaurant, I'm just going to call him right now.
Wait, so I don't think you have a phone number for Exeter himself.
It's we've got that *616.
Yeah, okay. So a person answers a man's voice and says, yes.
We need briefings on what those 4 operatives were working on
And their skill sets.
and their skill sets. In particular, any special expertise that may seem incongruous. We understand they were all trained in combat, but if, for example, one of them was also an opera singer, it would be useful to know the unusual training or experiences they've had.
It's done. And the call disconnects.
Delta Green,
So it's-
efficient as always.
It's supposed to be that easy. I think that would have been helpful 20 years ago.
Well, this is the modern world. Everything can be done on phones. We all have these devices. It's so much easier. At least if you manage to avoid toxicity online. But on the bright side of things, we can take very clear pictures with our phones.
Right.
Um,
Maybe
so
we should call this doctor and set up an appointment as well.
Felix
I'll,
is going to text his wife, say he's off for a conference for a week. Loves her to bits and looking forward to seeing her again, and turns his phone off.
Not
Felix,
even a phone call.
You could have at least told her that somebody got sick and you had to take their place on the spur of the moment. Or is she just used to you dropping
She's a
off
teacher
the face
at
of the earth?
she's a teacher at the same place, so that wouldn't fly anyway.
Yeah, I'm
This
going
is-
to go home, I think, and have a normal night with my husband and children, and then tell them I'm going off to a conference. In lieu for somebody else who's got ill.
Yelena, you said you were going to call the doctor.
Yeah, so I think call the doctor, set up an appointment to see him.
Yeah, he seems happy to hear from someone. He is happy to make an appointment. Like, he'll clear his schedule. So just tell him when you want to come in.
Okay. I guess give it a give it a day, I guess. For everybody to like do what they need to do to convince the people in their lives that they're going to be gone for a while.
I can be there anytime starting tomorrow.
Yeah, it sounds like everyone's pretty well ready to jump in.
Tomorrow it is.
Like 9 a.m.? Is that what we're looking at?
Maybe 11, and then we can have lunch afterwards and discuss it.
And here I was thinking you wanted to have brunch before.
Why is it whenever I play games with Puckett, we end up spending half our time in a cafe? What's going on?
Brunch is just that good.
All right. So we'll cut to the next day as you arrive at the Dorchester house. But if anyone wants to like tell us about any preparation they do or a scene, for, describe a vignette with their families or anything like that, you're welcome to do that. Does anyone have a scene they'd like to do before we get to the Dorchester?
I've never said this sentence before, but show me your murder boards.
All
This
right.
might be the only thing that Sarah and Elena are actually enthusiastic about in this whole thing.
Oh, I'm not enthusiastic about it because one, it shows how deep our obsession is. And two, I had really hoped that we could just kind of leave that room closed. And here we are, right back into it.
All right. So just around 11 the next day, the four of you arrive at the Dorchester House Psychiatric Facility. Was originally built as a boys' school. It still has kind of that look to it, old private Catholic school. It's 3 stories tall and divided into 3 wings. You head into an admin area and you can see that you need sort of swipe card access to get beyond that space. The receptionist will, recognize your appointment with Dr. Dallin. He'll print out, temporary access cards for the 3 of you that will open the doors that you need to get to his office and sort of point you in the direction of Dr. Dallin's office. And we'll say before you go on, just as you're leaving, those will open the doors. Please make sure that none of the patients are close behind you as you do that. Some of them might try and leave the facility. If any of you are carrying guns, they will ask you to leave them in a secure safe at the front counter.
I do so.
I look at you in astonishment and say, Yelena, you're bringing a gun to a psychiatric hospital?
I'll look at Sarah and be like, I told you I didn't want to be unprepared this time.
You have a point.
Nobody else surrenders a weapon? All right.
I will grudgingly pull a very small Glock out of the holster that's in the small of my back and put it in the gun safe.
All right. So Dr. Dallin will tell you about the patients, and the things that he tells you will match. Sarah, a selection of files were delivered to your place like early this morning about the 4 missing patients, and what he says is consistent with what you found out there. So Fiona Pesco was a 39-year-old former FBI special agent. You have details of her service record. Wayne Malta, a 43-year-old Air Force captain, Erica Feltner, a 33-year-old US Marine, and Bertrand Mogan, a 48-year-old DEA agent. All of them had fairly profound delusions. Yes, I will absolutely do that.
I'm okay at typing, but I'm not that okay.
Yeah, fair enough. Bear with me for 1 sec. All right, I've posted their names in the chat. He says, so it was around, well, what can I tell you? The patients were on the 3rd floor. That's our most secure ward or area. The patients had all been locked in their rooms for the night. We have confirmation that each of them was in their cell during a round of checks that happened between 6 p.m. and 6:34 p.m. The first disappearance, which was Fiona Pesco, was noticed during routine checks at 8:11 p.m. This was on the 28th of August.
Can we just confirm, were they actually working together? They were a team? They were just individual?
So Dr. Dallin will say, the program does not give me a lot in the way of operational detail about the patients that they send here, so I don't know for certain. But from the ways they interacted, I don't believe that they were acting as a team previously.
Right.
I could be wrong about that. They may have, encountered each other, made each other's acquaintance, but they didn't seem like a group that had worked together, at least for a while. So the first disappearance was noticed at 8:11 p.m. As is standard, we then did a check of the whole facility, and by 8:22 p.m., we'd found the 4 of them were all gone, and discovered the writing in blood on the wall of Wayne's cell. He won't call it a cell. Wayne's room. All of them were locked in their rooms. None of the locks had been opened. We'd have records on our computers if any of the locks had opened. That had not happened. There's no other way to exit those rooms. It's fully unclear to me how any of them could have gotten out.
Were they the only ones who were unaccounted for?
Yes, they were.
And had any of them been behaving unusually for them in the recent days prior to the incident?
I would say that over the last few months, each of them, before that, each of them seemed to be making good progress, but over the last few months, all 4 had seen fairly serious descent, deterioration. Their delusions seemed to become more profound, more complex, and they were less responsive to treatment.
What was the nature of their delusions, Doctor?
Well, they all had quite complex delusional beliefs. Pesco was convinced that a candidate in next year's presidential elections had been corrupted by the same occult text that had caused her breakdown, and that this politician would aim to rule on behalf of some sort of alien power. Malta was convinced that a TV program was in production based on the play and that it would drive millions of people mad. Feltner believed that I'm sure you've heard of the Boston slasher serial killings that have been in the news recently. Feltner was convinced that the killer was somehow inspired or empowered by the same text. Mogan believes that he must find a labyrinth filled with strange individual bottles, each bottle assigned to a different person. Mogan's delusion was that he needed to find a bottle belonging to the author of this text and then take the bottle to a masquerade at some sort of palace. As I say, all of these delusions were quite resistant to the usual forms of treatment.
Do we have previous addresses for these people?
Yeah, so that'll be in the files that Sarah got. They're sort of scattered across the country. Dr. Dallin will say that the program is monitoring their previous addresses and phone lines for any contact, but so far none of them have tried to go home or made contact with their homes.
No, I was just wondering if they lived at certain buildings that had interesting backgrounds, and I'll look at Sarah so she knows what I'm talking about.
It'll be clear just from looking at the addresses that they're not connected to the Thought buildings. The Thought buildings are all in Chicago, and none of them had home addresses there.
Doctor, I just want to make sure that I heard something and that I understood it. You said that Mogan had delusions of a maze or a labyrinth with bottles in it, and each person had a bottle that was theirs?
That's right.
Doctor, what else did the patients tell you, or what else specifically did Mogan tell you about that delusion?
I'm not sure how to answer that. The patients are not encouraged to explicate their delusions. As part of their treatment, we discourage discussion of the delusional beliefs.
I see. So you don't help them realize how absurd delusions are by talking through them. You don't help them find the inconsistencies in such things so that they can help themselves, in effect, and that they can, in fact, heal themselves.
Sarah, with all respect, that's not how delusions work. If you press people on their delusions, they will either just rationalize further or they'll become extremely defensive and hostile and closed down. I've dealt with enough of them in the field myself. Feeding your people's delusions or encouraging them to work on things never seems to be right.
Were they in the same group therapy sessions, or was this individual counseling and work that you were doing with them?
It's a combination. All of them attended group therapy sessions together, as well as personalized one-on-one treatment.
Were they all in all of their groups? Did they have different groups that they attended?
All of the patients on the third floor attend a shared group therapy session. So while they were on the third floor, they would all have been in the same session, same group therapy, and not had separate therapies. He'll kind of look through the records and explain, the system that we work here is that the most damaged and potentially dangerous patients are on the third floor with the most restrictions. As the treatment, as they show signs of improvement, they move to the second and then to the ground floor with progressively less restrictions and the aim of reintegrating them into society. It looks like they did have different group therapies when they were on the lower floors, but nothing for the last few months.
So did they start on the third floor, or did they move up to the third floor?
It looks like they started. All of them did start on the third floor, but had made progress to the lower floors before moving back to the third.
Before reverting. Interesting. And you mentioned dangerous and damaged. Were they just damaged, or were they also dangerous?
All of them showed. I mean, dangerous is difficult to quantify in a facility like this. None of them have access to anything that could be used as a weapon. There was some acting out, some damage to property. No direct signs of danger towards another human.
So no assaults.
No assaults.
And was there any event that took place here that you all felt at the time might have precipitated their decline?
No, it remains unclear to me whether there was something that precipitated their decline, or whether it was a coincidence.
So no power outages, no fire nearby, no change of staff because people were sick, or
There was a problem with the security camera system, the logs. That was back in around the start of June. That is around the same time frame as all of them were moved back to the third floor, but I have never considered that there could be a connection.
Describe the issue with the security cameras.
I think he'll say that you'll need to talk to the orderly. He's not really across the details.
And the
He gives you
orderly's
the name
name?
Michael DeVaughn. I've arranged, there's a nurse here, Esther Samagina, who has appropriate security clearances and familiarity with your program. She can take you anywhere in the facility that you need to see, help you out with any questions that you might have if I'm not available.
One last question. Did any of them begin talking about a book that perhaps somebody gave them or that showed up in the hospital library or anything of that sort?
My understanding is that all 4 of the patients were brought here because of exposure to an unnatural text. I'm not aware of the details of that text, but there's no way that a text like that could arrive in the hospital library.
Do your patients get TV time?
Great question. So definitely this is Shane speaking, not Dr. Dallin. On the first and second floors, they definitely can watch television. I'm not sure if they have access to televisions on the third floor. Let's say that they do. They can watch TV in a shared supervised room.
Right. Did any of them mention a specific show that kind of caught all of their attention? All 4 of them, or even other patients?
I don't think so. Nothing like that I recall from our therapy.
All right, I think it's best we see their rooms. I'm assuming nothing's changed since they disappeared.
We haven't moved or changed anything.
Dr. Dillon, is there a hospital library, or is there a day room where you keep the books that the patients have access to?
I mean, there's not a library per se. There are bookshelves in the common rooms on each floor, but there's not a lot of reading going on here, I guess.
I'll need to see those bookshelves.
Of course. Well, I'll call Nurse Samagina, and she can take you to their rooms, the bookshelves, and anything else that you need to see. And we're about the top of the hour, so I reckon this is a good place for a 5-minute break, and then we can come back for your tour of the Dorchester. Is that good for everyone?
Mark, I'm not sure if Occult Divinity Lost AP having similarities with this campaign is good or bad.
not reassuring.
Not every game can be us constantly hanging out in pubs and like letting ghosts possess us and stuff.
Yeah, they're playing through a campaign called the Black Madonna, which is very creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the original version of Cult, and I was getting into Mage at the time back in the mid-90s, and I read the original thing, and I was like, wow, this is dark. This makes World of Darkness look like for kiddies. All right, everyone's back. Well, looks at it, Shane.
All right. So just out, Nurse Samagina will meet you at Dr. Dallin's office, and he, tells her to show you whatever it is that you want to see. And she will say, do you want to start with the rooms of the missing patients, or where do you want to go?
I think that'd probably be the best.
All right. So she takes you up to the third floor. You see, you have to swipe through a number of doors to get there. She stops. There's like a notice board on the third floor, and she stops and pulls something off it, sort of crumples it up, and says, "Oh, that's not supposed to be there." This way, she takes you down to.
May I see what you just pulled off the notice board? Anything could be helpful in finding out what happened.
Sure. She says she's been seeing these all over the neighborhood. She's not really sure what they're about. And I will post it in the folder. Where is it? Sorry, there we go. It's just uploading. It's a flyer for some sort of self-help group. You should be able to see it in the folder now. And she explains, we're not only authorized flyers are supposed to be on the message board, and most of the stuff on the message board you can see is, sort of hospital information, mundane stuff.
I look at that the lawyer and say, if you see any more of these, would you please bring them to me directly?
Sure. Will you be back here?
If I'm not, here's an address you can send them to. It is imperative, and I lean in and stress this, it is absolutely imperative that you remove these as quickly as possible. If any of your staff happen to go to this group, we need to know about it.
All right. I'll ask around.
I'm told that you understand the nature of the investigations that we do.
Well, I understand that I don't want to know any more than I need to.
Good.
But
this is one of those things that you don't want to know any more about than you absolutely need to.
All right. Just down this way. And she'll show you one of the rooms. It is, the room itself is pretty unremarkable. The third floor rooms are plain. They have a bed, a small desk. What do we say? Rooms are sparse with few personal effects. You'll see that there are blankets, sheets, pillows, slippers, clothing. There are restraints attached to the bed. She says this was Fiona Pesco's room. And
I'm going to put my goggles on and look around the room in different shades just to... May not find anything, but it's worth a look.
Yeah, you won't find anything doing that in any of the rooms that you look at here. But she takes you around. All of the rooms are identical except for the one that still has that message in blood on the wall, just like it appears in the photo.
Are they allowed any personal items in their rooms?
On the third floor, personal items are pretty tightly restricted.
Do you have any idea how the patient managed to wound themselves so that they could write a message in blood on the wall? That's a relatively significant amount of blood, wouldn't you agree?
So it's actually quite small. So it doesn't look like it's like a physically large amount of blood. It's definitely disturbing. I've seen patients bite themselves deeply enough to cause bleeding. I really don't know what it was. I'm sorry.
I'd like to look around this room using my unnatural skill.
Is there anything in particular that you're hoping to find?
I can tell you things that I'm hoping not to find.
well, I'll take it.
I'm hoping not to find signs of a door that is not the door we came through. I'm hoping not to find signs of this room turning into an elevator shaft or in some other way morphing or extending. Things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you need to roll unnatural to see that none of those things are happening. This appears, to your eyes and to your strongest intuitions to be a mundane room in a secure but mundane room in a psychiatric hospital.
They had to get out some way, and considering the doors were closed and locked, the only way that I can think of is through an unnatural means. So
Yeah, but it might have still been the door.
I recall I'll look at Sarah and be like, in our research, if you remember, there was an incident in which I think it was it Garibaldi who somebody opened a door on a set and walked through and disappeared.
It was Ian de Craig.
Right.
Right. There was also all those doors in the hotel where people said strange things like numbers or what have you. And then those doors opened up into places that otherwise they didn't.
So Nurse Samagina is just going to excuse herself and say, I'm going to wait outside. You obviously have some things you need to talk about.
that's for the best. Shane, are you on a meta level? Are you telling me that rolling unnatural will not give me any additional information?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll drop that and let it go.
In each room, I'm just going to take a deep breath and say those 6 words that come out of the radio, the India, Sia, Dallin, Moon stuff.
Well, I mean, the first thing that occurs to you as you say that is that India Moon is the name of the operation that you're on now.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you hadn't noticed that before.
Yeah, I did.
And I'm just going to look at you like, Felix, what the?
I'm just seeing if there's a reaction if we're already there.
But other than that, there's nothing that happens as you say those words.
God, we told
Good.
Masha that it might be an agent from a time that hasn't happened yet or not that hadn't happened yet. And here we are with those 6 words.
You, Felix, you saw that flyer, huh?
I've passed it around to all of you by this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, read the stuff in the bottom right hand corner.
It's well, both that and the message mention the C's.
Yeah, look at the first letters.
The king comes.
And not for nothing, but that is clearly a sigil.
Is it the sign?
Yes.
What's his face? Persephone or whatever his name was?
Please don't make me answer that question, Tara. You won't like it.
I'm just saying, I'm not asking for the name of it. I just wanted to know if you've heard of it.
That sigil, yes.
Figured. I'm wondering if one of these flyers made it to where these patients could see it before their relapse.
Wondering if it had anything to do with how they got out.
Yeah, I don't think that it would have been someplace accessible to them. It's not the kind of
I'm
thing
not
they
worried
let
about them.
have.
If staff
But
saw
yeah.
this,
Yeah, that's true.
Does the wording on the wall or on the flyer, does it bear any similarities to any passages from the King in Yellow?
Good question. Not particularly.
Okay.
There are also other patients on this floor. If you wanted to, maybe ask about whether they'd seen the flyer or anything like that. there's other people around, probably staff as well.
Mm-hmm. Might be worthwhile.
I'd like to look at the bookshelves.
Yeah, so if you head to the common area, there's a small bookshelf. It's stocked with what look to be fairly old paperbacks. Most of them are sort of potboiler, bestseller type things. There's probably a Bible there as well. Nothing that strikes you as remarkable in any way.
I'm just sort of holding the flyer and going, hang on, masks provided? What?
Yeah, I caught that too. Masquerade.
And also, answer and no judgment is like way bigger font.
I'm sure it all means something.
This is reeks of dodginess.
What, really? That's the part that strikes you as dodgy, Blake?
No, all of it.
Felix?
All of it. There's little on there that is normal.
Felix, I have missed you. And honestly, you saying that the dodgy thing is the typography and type choice on a flyer is
Flyer that is
so on
clearly
brand for you.
that is clearly a hidden invitation.
Well, there's little that's not occult on this thing.
What is?
In fairness,
I wonder
it's
what this
widely
mark is
known-
on the left.
Oh, that little circle?
Could
Maybe
be
that's where you
nothing.
have to bite your thumb and put it on there or something.
Honestly,
you notice,
I have missed you, but I really wish we weren't getting together under these circumstances.
So I think as you look at the bookshelves in the common room, you'll notice that there's a patient in the common room who is sort of sat facing the television, which is just showing unremarkable daytime TV. And he seems to be writing into a notebook and sort of looking up and down from you to his notebook as he does.
Can we kind of look at the notebook without announcing ourselves? Just sort of get closer and take a peek?
I think you can make a stealth roll to try and do that.
Yeah, this would be good. Got 10%. Let's go. Failed by 67.
All right. He notices that you're trying to get closer and look at his book. And
I'm just
I
going to
think-
plunk myself down in this chair next to him and says, hey, anything interesting to report?
Well, you've been outside, so you probably have more interesting stuff going on than I do. Do you know Miguel Croquel?
Not personally. Why are they somebody? They a celebrity?
No, I don't think so. I just like to write about people in my book. You haven't seen the four of you around before. What are you doing here?
We were friends with some of the patients that were here, but have left the hospital. Has anything interesting happened to you in the last few days?
Do you want to make a human roll?
Sure. No, not with that.
All right. No, nothing. I mean, those people disappeared, but other than that, nothing strange really happened.
Did you talk to them much?
I mean, sure. There's not that many people around here. You got to talk to whoever you come by.
Did they
What are
talk
you
about
here for? Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, did they talk about the same thing or just something different every time? Or
And talk about different things, just like anyone.
okay.
Mind me asking why you're here?
Well, I guess it depends who you ask. What will he say? I let my unit get killed in Iraq. And he's sort of visibly withdrawing as he says this. The doctor says it's good to talk about, but I don't really like to talk about it.
What's your name?
Tim Bale. And he extends his hand.
No, Mr. Tyndale. Thanks for your service.
How does he spell his last name?
Do you ask him that?
I'm gonna go. Yeah, no, I'm gonna ask.
You're so
How do you spell your last name, Mr. Bale?
He looks at you curiously and he says Bael.
Yeah.
And I assume that him saying that, if nobody else recognizes it, then certainly Sarah, with her high occult role, recognizes the surname as a demon from the Asgersha.
Yeah.
I'd like to, because every entity in the Lesser Key of Solomon has its own sigil.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, Mr. Bale, may I borrow your notebook for a moment? I'd like to sketch something for you.
He says yes, but also just before you do that, can you make an occult roll for me?
Of course. That is 2 under 90.
Right. So this probably occurred to you before, but or maybe it just occurs to you now. But Samagina, which is the name of the nurse who's been showing you around, is also the name of a demon in the Asgersha. Go ahead and so he will let you take his book away from him. And you'll see that it consists, like, the notes are made up of names. Some of them seem to be the names of staff here. Others of odd names that you don't know. All of them describe a combination of things that person can do and ways to get that person to do whatever it is that he says they can do. He's also drawn odd little symbols next to all of them, or I suppose what would look like odd little symbols to anyone but you recognize these as sigils from the Lesser Key of Solomon.
Right. And I'm going to draw the symbol of Baal in his book. Do you want me to roll for that with an occult of 90?
I think that you can just draw it. In fact, you can probably find where he's already drawn it without too much trouble.
Yeah, but it's different when I draw it because that gives me power over him. If it is,
So
in fact, Baal.
I mean, I think that what you know is that, like, if this was the Baal that is the demon in the Asgersha, then there is a ritual that you could perform that would give you power over him, but just drawing the sigil in itself probably wouldn't. He looks surprised.
Can I start doing that ritual?
I mean, you're not going to be allowed to carry out the ritual in the middle of the psychiatric hospital.
It probably involves butchering a black coat.
So anyway,
like, you would need to draw a circle on the floor and perform certain movements. It takes an hour to carry out the ritual, so it's not really practical to do it here.
But drawing the sigil,
you can do that. And he looks at it. He looks surprised. He goes, have you seen that somewhere before?
And I just kind of smile and say, you aren't the only one with knowledge of the Gosha.
Make a human roll.
That is 35, again, under 62.
He has no idea what you're talking about. I don't know any Gosha, I'm sorry.
Well, that's where the symbol comes from. You've drawn it in your journal. And, well, I thought it was something that we had in common that we could speak about. I must have been mistaken.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just like to doodle is all.
I'll look around to the other. Yeah.
I was just gonna ask if the symbol on the flyer, so above the words in the bottom right-hand corner, if that is also representative of any demon.
Sorry, what words was that?
So sorry, on the flyer, in the lower right-hand corner where it has the words that kind of spell out the king is coming or the king comes. There's a symbol above it. I wonder if that is also.
Yeah, that's probably the yellow sign.
Yeah, so that's not. You definitely recognize that symbol from your research into the history of the king in yellow. You think it's a symbol that's associated with the place specifically, but not. It's not from the Asgosha. It's not a demonic sigil.
Okay, so it's associated with Carcosa.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll also point that out to everybody. It's like, yeah, this symbol is associated to apparently that place that this king comes from. Things are fucky.
Is it like a TV in the day room?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to flick through some channels.
I mean, there's people sitting around watching it. They're going to be annoyed if you start flicking around.
Okay.
You definitely get like some, a young guy kind of yells like, "Hey, what are you doing? I was watching that."
All right, I'll just flick to a few random channels. Nothing dodgy comes up. That's fine. I'll just flick it back.
This guy looks like he might want to murder you, but he doesn't get up from his chair. I think that the nurse Samagina will see that you kind of paused and will come over and say, "Well, is there anything else that I can show you?"
No, just having a look. I think just look around. I'm seeing if the symbol on the fly is like on any of the books or on any other pictures in the day room.
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
She might say that Dr. Dallin said that you wanted to talk to Michael Devaughn in the security camera room. I can take you there if you want.
Yes, please.
Also, are we allowed to see any like notes or files associated with these 4 people?
Yes, Dr. Dallin will share his files with you. Obviously, they're confidential, and we trust that you won't share them with anyone outside of the operation. I can arrange to have them brought to the security room for you to view.
Yes, please.
All right. Are all 4 of you going to go down to the security room? Or to rephrase, is anyone doing anything other than going to the security room? All right. Well, I'll assume that we're all heading there. So the security room is also on the 3rd floor. It's in the middle. The building has kind of like an E shape with a central wing and then a wing on each side. So this is in the middle. There are 16 screens. They're all showing different parts of the facility. There's a computer console, controls for what Tara will recognize as like a fire suppression system, and lots of switches that sort of activate or deactivate various locks and things like that. And the nurse will introduce you to Michael Devaughn, who's an orderly who is one of the workers in the security room. He explains that he was on duty when the disappearances occurred, and that Dr. Dallin's told him to cooperate with you however he can. So, what can I do for you?
So at the start of June, there was some sort of blip or something. Something went wrong with the security footage. What happened?
Yeah. So, let's see. So normally we have a system where the files, sorry, the video that's recorded here is backed up to a system where it's permanently saved. We had a problem between, and he'll like flick through a book or something to check. From May 27th to June 8, there was a problem with the backup system. All the files from that period were corrupted and can't be viewed anymore. Other than that, though, it's all been working fine except for the night that the patients went missing.
Now, was it the same thing that went wrong, or
No,
different issues?
A different problem. It was, just a series of things that are all sort of, unremarkable in themselves, but strange for them all to happen at the same time. A disk error, a cascade of glitches, and we don't have any footage from the night they went.
And when did you say that you had the issue where the footage was corrupted?
Started May 27, and we had it all fixed on June 8.
So basically, no footage exists from that period of time, let alone the actual night that.
And in that time, it's when the 4 patients was transferred up to the 3rd floor.
I think Michael DeVaughn won't be able to tell you that, but that's right.
Tell me, with your security system, you maintain logs of people signing in and out to visit patients, correct?
That's right.
Do you have those logs? Sure. Do you have those logs here?
I can access them, and he'll open up, on the computer screen, some sort of database that keeps records of guests checking in and out.
Can we look at May 27th, since that's when it started?
Exactly, Felix.
Yeah, let's have a look. Will you see anything if you look at May 27? Bear with me for a sec. There's no records of any visitors on the 27th.
What about
Wait, is there none at all, or just none for those 4 patients?
For anyone on the 3rd floor, which Devon will explain is pretty common. Like, patients on the 3rd floor are pretty far gone. They're not seeing a lot of outside visitors most of the time.
Hang on, I thought they were moved on the 1st of June. So...
Oh, sorry. That's my mistake, not a clue.
Okay, right. Cool.
Yeah, so if he's looking more generally at the records from then, there's a number of visitors who came to the hospital on that day, but none of them that saw any of the 4.
I'd still like their names. And I would like the names of all visitors to all patients from the 27th through what day did you say the service was restored, the backups?
June 8.
June 8. Yes, if you could pull those names and print them out for us, I would appreciate that.
Sure. So he'll do that. He'll print out a list that includes, the name of the visitor, the hours that they visited, and the patients they were visiting. One thing that will stand out to you in that is that there are, someone named Dr. Elias Barbas has visited a number of times in that period. His visits, unlike most of the others, don't seem to be connected to particular patients.
I'll say to Sarah Barbas, is that a name you're familiar with?
So I think Barbas is not a name from the Ars Goetia, but there are a couple of names that are close to it. There's a Barbatos and there's a Marbas.
I'll look at Felix and say, close, not quite. It could just be an error of scanning. It could be an intentional misspelling.
Elias, alias.
I hate that we have to think like this. Aren't you glad that I've spent
Maybe-
the last 20 years studying?
Yes
we
and
can
no.
ask. We can ask about who this doctor is.
Excuse me. Sorry,
Maybe
Yelena,
when the nurse. I was just gonna say, like when the nurse comes with the files, we can ask her maybe who this doctor is and what he comes for.
So yeah, she'll say, I mean, we have a lot of consulting doctors visiting. I don't think I know this Dr. Barbas in particular.
Maybe Dr. Dallin will know. Anything in the files? Like so changes in their disposition, I guess, other than when they got moved up to the third floor.
So, I mean, on a cursory examination, it's just going to sort of confirm in broad outline what you've already heard. If you want to like spend a few hours looking through them in detail, then we can maybe make some dice rolls to see if you find anything else.
Yeah, I think that would probably be worthwhile.
Well, let's wait until you have a chance to like sit down with them and study them.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess Nurse Samagina will say at this point, is there anywhere else that you wanted me to show you while you're here, or?
I can't think of anything else.
We looked at the patient's rooms thoroughly, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're confident that there's nothing that you didn't find in the individual patients who are missing rooms. And she'll give you like a sort of general tour of the facility just so you have a sense of, how everything fits together.
If there's any stairways, just make sure we can actually see what's on the other side.
Yes, she shows you. Yeah, there's stairs as well as lifts.
Okay. I just say, look, we need to make sure we've covered all entrances and exits to the building because this could be a kidnapping. But
yeah, she'll definitely show you around all the points where you can exit the building. I don't know. I guess there's probably a parking lot, an exit in the back, and the front door.
Yep.
And I think probably no access to the roof. And I think that by the time you finish all this, it's probably mid-afternoon. Maybe this is a good place for us to wrap up for this week, or is there other stuff that you want to do?
I'm good with wrapping up here, unless
yeah,
anybody else
cool.
wants something.
With me.
Yeah. I mean, other than going through the files, if that's something we want to do before we wrap up, or leave that for next time.
Yeah, let's leave it for next time. We'll pick up. You can think about what you want to do. All right, I'm going to end the recording, and then we'll do stars and wishes.